A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here in Autodrom Most in the Czech Republic for another round of the GT Cup Series. It's a sprint round, and as you can clearly hear behind me, the pole sitter has just arrived here on the starting grid, and it's once again Miro Konopka starting in front of everyone with the incredible Ligier LMP3 car of ARC Bratislava. It's been an amazing qualifying session earlier this morning for round 3 of the season. Today it's the Sprint Cup. We saw both race 1 of the sprint and the third round of the Endurance Series back yesterday on Saturday, whereas here today we're ready for race number 2 for the sprint. Many classes, of course, as per usual, present in this incredible championship. We have on one hand the prototypes with our lovely Ligier from ARC Bratislava and the Praga R1 down the order as well. And then, of course, GTX and GT3 classes getting ready to take the show to a whole new level. We have, of course, many different cars. We see the Audi, and it's about to come here on the start-finish straight on the starting grid. That is going to start from second position. But then we have plenty of other cars. We have BMWs reigning on the second row of the grid. We have Ferrari with the 488 GT3. And of course, we have then other cars such as the Lamborghini Huracan, who took the win in both the first race of the sprint format and in the endurance format yesterday. We're ready for the second race. It's going to be another 25 minutes of racing with plenty of action. Of course, this is the sprint format. Everyone wants to try and gain as many positions as possible in the very first few minutes. It's going to be a very short race, but a very fun one indeed. Let's not forget, of course, about the other categories as well. We have GT4 racing here with Bugirasian Racing taking the win in both the sprint and the endurance formats yesterday with, of course, their Mercedes AMG GT4. And then, of course, we have Aston Martin with Yannick Motorsport, and we have GT Sports Technology with their incredible Porsche Cayman in the GT4 class as well. Last, but definitely not least, the GTC class with the Cup cars from both Porsche and Lamborghini with the Cup and the Super Trofeo models ready to steal the show here in Most. We're ready for the race to begin. There's only a couple of minutes before the start of the formation lap. See you guys very, very soon. I will be in the commentary booth to tell you guys all about this race happening very shortly here in Most.
Šťastlivo.
Všetko sú to len moje peniaze.
And here we are in the commentary booth, and here is the beautiful Autodrom Most, which is the theatre of this third round of the Sprint Cup for GT Cup Series. Here is the starting order with Miro Konopka in front of everyone with its Ligier LMP3, the JSP 320 model of ARC Bratislava, just ahead of Petr Fulin, the home hero for Fulin race with the Audi, the number 222. And then the rest of the grid, we have BMWs in the second row. We have so many other drivers getting ready to start. Different classes, of course. And as you can clearly hear from the sound levels, we are now into the formation lap. So the very first time that we see now the cars in anger, getting ready to start off their final adventure of this weekend. Drivers had to face both a sprint round and an endurance round this time in Most. The two series running back to back as always, and if yesterday saw the first sprint race and then the endurance event at the end of the program, today we'll only see race 2 of the sprint format. Here is the car from Adam Konopka, the Lamborghini of ARC Bratislava, which has taken everything it could be taken this weekend. It took the win in the first sprint race and in the endurance format as well later yesterday, and it's for sure the car to beat today as well with its incredible straight line speed. We saw it shut off into the distance from the beginning. Today, of course, will be slightly harder, starting from 6th position. We're not expecting it to be in the lead come turn number 1, but definitely we could see it gain some places. Cars are getting ready to come back to the start-finish straight. And of course, then we will be able to get ready to witness these 25 minutes of racing. So, in first position will be Miro Konopka, once again taking pole, just like every single other round this year. Peter Fulin in second position with the Audi, trying to make a break for it, especially given that his car looked mighty quick throughout the entire weekend. But now, as a safety car will go to the pit lane, we're about to get ready to start off this sprint race, the second one of the weekend. Miro Konopka on the right-hand side of the track, the left-hand side of the screen, with the other Audi of Peter Fulin in second position. And we are underway here in Most. This time it's a great getaway for the Audi, who looks to be very dangerous towards turn number 1. It's once again Lamborghini, however, in front, and unfortunately they've gone wide and long into turn 1, and the same goes for Miro Konopka, and both of them are in the escape road as they have to juggle the escape roads and of course the tire walls at the exit of turn number 1 and 2. They are in the lead so far, but let's see if they have to give the position back to some of the cars. Meanwhile, Miro Konopka holds the lead, but this time the other part of the Konopka family, Adam, struggled off of the line, and he has tumbled down the order and towards the latter part of the top 10. Rather surprisingly, I have to say, given how good his reaction times were every single time before this race. But right now we have once again the LMP2 car of Miro Konopka in the lead. It was in the lead already yesterday during the endurance race, but then after the pit stops it was Adam Konopka here with the other Lamborghini of ARC Bratislava, the one who shot off into the distance to win. Meanwhile, we can see on the timing screens that Miro Konopka and Denis Vajek are still in first and second, currently in the lead of the D5 and GTX categories. Speaking about those two categories, here's a move from the GTX car of ARC Bratislava on the D5 Praga. That is Roman Rubicek losing 9th place to Adam Konopka, who now has the GTC leader of Jozef Jaruba in front of him. Meanwhile, in the GT3 standings, it's Audi up top, with Racing Trevor right behind, with Antal Gigo and car number 500, the BMW, which failed to contest for the win yesterday in the endurance event with only 2 laps to go. But we all know it's a super competitive car, especially at such speeds. Meanwhile, here we go with Adam Konopka on the attack as he overtakes the Lamborghini of Jaruba, who is now dropped a place and down to 9th, but of course still leading the GTC standings because the nearest competitor is Dan Skalicki in the DCR Porsche 911 Cup. Here you see the difference between two very different models. One is the Lamborghini Super Trofeo and the other one the Praga R1. Meanwhile, we also see some of the KTM crossbows trying to make up some lost ground. The best one is Marius Eigner so far in 5th position. Behind there, we saw the one of Anthony Herbeck. Here you see Adam Konopka. Trying to make some inroads. Right now he is in 8th position, looking to enter the top 5 once more. Of course, the Lamborghini having some great pace throughout this weekend, taking the win in both the first sprint race and the endurance race, not just in this category, but then of course in the overall standings. Meanwhile, that incident with Miro Konopka and Denis Vajek that saw both of them cut the first chicane at the start of the race, keeping 1st and 2nd place respectively, is now under investigation, and that is unfortunate for both of them, as Konopka now leads, but we'll have to wait for an official decision coming from the stewards. While we see here the KTM of Max Grip, it hasn't been the easiest of weekends for him, DNFing from both the first sprint race and from the endurance event. He was one of the maiden competitors in the GTX standings. Now we're looking to finally take home some points. Let's not forget that for those drivers who are competing in both sprint races and don't have a teammate, that only the best of the 2 events will be counted towards the standings, and that is of course a chance for Max Grip to erase that retirement in race number 1 and solely depend on the results of this race right here. Here is the Ferrari of Rock Robots, and that is Anthony Herbeck behind the wheel. It's a 488 GT3 entered in the GTX standings, currently 5th in class. Meanwhile, here are 2 of the Porsche Cup cars as well. That is the one from Aritis Racing. Trying to improve their position. Here is Karel Neffer in the GT Sports Technology Porsche. Right behind Dan Skalicki, and those are the 2 drivers in 2nd and 3rd position so far in the GTC class. 2 better placed Porsches, because leading the class is of course the Lamborghini Super Trofeo of Mechanic Motorsport of Josef Jaruba, which is a little over 12 seconds in front. Way faster pace for Lamborghini compared to the 2 Porsches. Meanwhile, we have a 5-second penalty for car number 44, together with car number 100. So both Miro Konopka and Denis Vajek will have 5 seconds to add to their respective times at the end of the race due to leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And that is because of the incident that happened into turn 1 on the opening lap of the race. Both of them overshooting the first chicane, having to take
evasive action, but of course gaining time while doing so, and therefore they have been penalized by 5 seconds. That so far does not change Miro Konopka's fate, as he is 5.6 seconds in front of Petar Fulin, but the race is still very long, and so you never know what's going to happen, especially since even a small safety car by the end of the race could prove to be crucial in deciding the outcome of this second sprint race of the weekend. Here is Miro Konopka starting his lapping procedures already, and that is on one of the Lema Racing GT4 Mercedes. It is one of the most populated category, the GT4, and rightfully so. It is a very, very interesting class that has seen plenty of action throughout, not just today, but I have to say the entire championship. And here is one of its participants. That's car number 73. That's the Yannick Motorsport Aston Martin AMR GT4. One of the newest GT4 elements present in the championship. And here is Adam Konopka, right in the mirrors of Aigner. He's overtaking Benio for 6th place, and now he is flying through to what could be a top 5 finish. Yet with still 15 more minutes to go, you get the feeling that anything can happen in this race. And of course, this is not to say that Aigner isn't competitive. Actually, he was holding 2nd position in the overall standings in the lead of the GTX class during the endurance race yesterday, in the first half at least. But naturally, we've seen Konopka being super quick, especially on straights, and that it will probably be the place where he would want to look for a move without even having to rely on the braking zone. Whereas on the other hand, of course, the maiden part of the track where KTM excels is the first half, where aerodynamics plays a huge part into deciding which car goes the fastest. That is, of course, to say that every single entry in this championship has its own class, basically, which ensures that everyone competes fairly. So far, the KTM defending quite well, as Adam Konopka is trying to find his own rhythm to get everything under control. It's not easy, of course, to find the right rhythm, especially in such short races. You would think that a shorter race will give drivers a better chance of performing at the highest level, and that is actually not the case. In fact, drivers usually love a longer race in order to fall into a rhythm and start being more at ease with their cars. Instead, here with just 25 minutes on the clock, it's much more difficult to find the correct rhythm, as we're seeing right now especially. We'll see whether or not this will play and make a difference come the end of the race. Usually doesn't, but especially in such short format races, a lot can happen in just a couple of minutes. And here goes Adam Konopka up the inside of Aigner for 5th position. And that is not just a spot in the top 5, but that is also 2nd place in the GTX class. The lead still belonging to Denis Vajek in front, though he has a 5-second time penalty. for leaving the track and gaining an advantage during the starting procedure. And that is, of course, something to be very wary of. We all know that it could potentially trigger some changes in the classification as well. It's not every day that you see so many cars out on track of different nature, and that is why there's a lot of people coming here in Most to have fun and look at those races, especially given that this weekend has so many different series racing. Over 6 championship present, with of course the pleasure of seeing the GT Cup series with many of fan favorite cars, such as the Ferrari 488, which you can see there in bright scarlet red. Now Herbeck just behind Brubicek in the Praga R1 number 65. Ferrari handling themselves pretty well here. They are, of course, the favorites wherever they go, just because of the brand Ferrari, and it's not a surprise to see him this quick, especially in GT Cup series. Meanwhile, here we are with the KTM crossbow of Max Grip. It's just ahead of Jaruba for 8th position, looking to be a potential danger to some of the teams. And of course, trying to get as much as possible out of the car. It's not easy, but trying their hardest seems to be always the great choice. You wouldn't think anything else, would you, of a brand such as Ferrari? Meanwhile, here is the fight between Max Grip and Jaruba for what is likely a spot in the top 10, and that is in fact for 8th position. All of them trying to gain as much time as possible, even though it's not easy, of course. With only 9 minutes left on the clock now, it's a completely different story compared to the endurance race that we saw yesterday, and rightfully so, especially given that all those cars have been working extremely hard day and night to become as quick as they are now. In front, Miro Konopka has a good gap on Denis Vajek, and Vajek himself is trying to keep Konopka, but Adam this time out of the 5-second range, because let's not forget that the top 2 have a penalty that will be added at the end of the race for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, and that means that Vajek has to fight against Adam Konopka. The gap was 5.8 seconds on the line the last time. Will they be able to keep that, or is Adam Konopka destined for yet another win? Well, we'll be figuring that out very shortly. Meanwhile, though, we still have Miro Konopka leading. You can see also a lot of the people that came here to watch who are ready to experience the fun that this series is able to offer. And right now you can see Miro Konopka trying his absolute hardest. He was together with Adam, one of the winners on home soil in the Czech Republic. Sorry, in Slovakia, at the Slovakia ring. And of course, now in the Czech Republic, they're trying to do the same and take the same results. Of course, not in front of those many home fans, but it will still be very much appreciated for them to be able to take that win. Meanwhile, here's Denis Vajek with Petr Fulin right behind. The two are from different classes, of course. We have the GTX standings for Vajek and the GT3 for Fulin, both leaders of their own category, which is why they have to be very careful when fighting against each other, especially because Vajek has a 5-second penalty and he has to keep Adam Konopka out of that range, which is now 6 seconds apparently, as Konopka has overtaken Antar Žigo for 4th place. Not chased by the cameras, but we've seen it on the standings. Meanwhile, Miro Konopka still leading, still fighting his absolute hardest, and he looks to have the win under control this time, unlike yesterday when he was sure to take victory, but then we saw incredibly once again Adam Konopka come away with the win after the pit stop phase really benefited him compared to Miro. It was a bit of a surprise for sure, but it was very nice to see both of them on the podium once again together. So far though, no one looks to be able to stop Miro this time, and he will be delighted with this result should this be the end of the race with a little over 5 minutes to go. Meanwhile, here's Bogi Raziem racing with the Mercedes that has dominated proceedings so far, not just today but yesterday too, getting the win in both the first sprint race and the long endurance event, taking a 1-2 even with both of their cars on both occasions, which of course meant that they would come here as the prime favorites to win this one as well. Mercedes AMG GT4, one of the best GT4s to exist at the moment. It's no surprise to see them this far up the order, in fact, especially given that it's a circuit in which there's a lot of potential for smaller cars to make the difference, and that is exactly what's been happening so far this year. It's no surprise to see them up top, whereas the fight for second in the GTC class keeps on going between Bogbao and Mikanek for what is now 14th position in the overall standings. There's also Nefe and Trevor now chased by the cameras. Car number 992 belonging to Dan Skalicki. Now goes a bit wide, however, to turn 10, so maybe that was an overtaking opportunity for Nefe. But meanwhile, we are with Rudolf Benio, driver for BMW this weekend. We've seen how good that car has been throughout the entire year, to be honest. It's not a surprise to see it this far up the grid. Of course, becoming one of the quickest cars of the entire field. It's no surprise to see them this up the order. Now as Miro Konopka rounds out the final corner, we start what is likely the penultimate lap of the race. Less than 2 minutes to go, which means that Miro Konopka will then come home for the win in just 2 laps time. Denis Vajek still in second, though his lead over Adam Konopka in the GTX standings is now under 5 seconds, and we told you guys about his penalty of 5 seconds. So it looks like Adam will be able to claim the GTX class win once more if his rhythm is anything to go by, and if he is able to keep going and keep that up. That would be, of course, such an amazing job from the Konopka family, taking home a 1-2 in both events so far. Yes, this will be the first non-1-2 of the weekend, but still a double podium in the overall standings, and once again a win in both categories. The D5 for Miro and the GTX for Adam, which has been terrain for dominance throughout this year so far. Naturally with a chance of repeating the success that he's had so far this weekend, Adam Konopka. I have to say, a phenomenal performance, not just today, but just the entire season as well, as Miro Konopka has now started the final lap of the race, and here are Denis Vajek and Petr Fulin, who are looking to challenge for what is essentially second place, though of course I'm guessing that Petr Fulin knows that Vajek has a penalty, and so fighting is pretty much useless. Meanwhile, Adam Konopka is only 3 seconds behind Vajek, which means that he's going to take, without question, Judy of course, across the finish line with this gap, the GTX win. But this is the last lap that we have with the GT Cup Series, so might as well enjoy it with Miro Konopka in the lead. And after missing out on the win in both the sprint race that opened the weekend and the long endurance race, is finally set on taking glory here in Most. And as he rounds out the final corner of the race, despite being behind 2 of the Porsche Cup cars, Miro Konopka is going to take the victory here in Most in the second sprint race of round number 3 of the season, and he is once again extending his championship lead in both the overall standings and in the D5 category. Denis Vajek crosses the line in second, but he has a 5-second penalty, so he will be dropping behind Petr Fulin and Adam Konopka. Meanwhile, Antal Gigo is also crossing now the finish line in 5th place to finish second in the GTX standings. Then we'll be having the first KTM crossbows of Marius Aigner for MZR Motorsport Centrum, finishing the race in 6th place and on the podium for the GTX standings in 3rd place in class. Then we'll have Rudolf Benio as well in the other BMW M4. No luck today for him, even though he'll be happy to finish the race when he didn't yesterday in the endurance event following a contact with the barriers on the outside of turn 2. But here is Miro Konopka, the winner of the overall standings as well as the D5 category. He's been absolutely fantastic today, as of course the winner of the GTC standings, Josef Jaruba, who just crossed the finish line, And then last but not least, the GT4 classifications have been once again dominated by Buggy Raziam Racing, who take a phenomenal 1-2 with car number 55, driven by Miroslav Mikes, just ahead of Filip Nedoma in the number 29 Mercedes AMG GT4, with Mercedes not able to put all 3 cars on a podium, because Lemma Racing with its 2 Mercedes has finished in 5th and 6th in class, and it's instead Aston Martin with Yannick Motorsport as the home team has managed to finish in 3rd place in class. Here is Peter Fullin for Fullin Race by Interaction. The Audi R8 LMS, the base model, which has been used by for over 10 years now, and it's now back in the pits and in Parc Fermé conditions as the GT3 winner for today's 2nd sprint race of the weekend. We also see now Adam Konopka together with Marius Eigner, the 2 finishing in 1st and 3rd in the GTX standings, and also the Mercedes with the white and orange livery of Lemma Racing entering the pits now and into Parc Fermé conditions. But the win has gone to Miro Konopka for this 2nd sprint race of the weekend. And here are the final classifications. Miro Konopka, Denis Vajek and Petr Fulin round out the podium, with Adam Konopka and Anton Žigo in the top 5. Great job by Josef Jaruba to win the GTC standings from 9th in the overall standings. Ferrari managed to squeeze into the top 10 with Antonin Herbeck in 10th position. And then, of course, the great job by Miroslav Mikes with Buggy Raziam Racing taking the win in the GT4 standings. Here are the highlights of the 2nd sprint race of GT Cup Series here from Autodrom Most. And those were the highlights for race number 2 of GT Cup Series. Now we have the summer break to enjoy for this lovely championship. Our next round will be in Orehova Poton, Slovakia, as the Slovakia ring will host round number 6 of the season in general, and of course round number 4 for both the endurance and the sprint format. We're ready to then go into the summer break, and in a month's time, from the 22nd to the 24th of August, we'll be in Slovakia. Thanks for being with us, and see you guys next time.